I got into my husband's car and found a tube of personal lubricant in the glove compartment. I didn't say a word. I just secretly replaced it with industrial superglue. And what happened next forced our neighbors to make an emergency call to the fire department. I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. If you're watching this, please hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me exactly where you're listening from. I read every single one, whether you're in Texas, New York, California, or halfway across the world. Let me know how far this story of revenge has traveled. My name is Juliet Roberts. I'm 64 years old, and for 40 years I built a life with a man I thought I knew better than anyone else on earth. I owned a successful chain of bakeries across San Antonio. I raised a good son. I thought we had it all, until the day I opened that glove compartment, and everything I believed came crashing down. I sat at the kitchen table that night, the silence in the house so thick it felt like morning fog rolling in off the river. The old wall clock, a wedding gift from my late mother, ticked louder than usual, each second hammering home the same painful question. How long has this been going on? Julian had just come home from another one of his business dinners. He looked exhausted, haunted, like a man carrying secrets too heavy for his shoulders. He tossed his jacket on the sofa, loosened his tie, and collapsed onto the bed without even bothering to shower. The faint scent of his expensive cologne mixed with something sweet and floral, a woman's perfume that definitely wasn't mine. A few minutes later, his snoring filled the house. Once that sound had comforted me, now it felt like a mocking lullaby for a fool who still believed in her marriage. I got up quietly. 40 years of marriage had taught me how to move like a ghost in my own home, and started tidying up. His jacket, his wallet, his phone, his old laptop. The phone screen was still lit. A new email glowed on it. Julian never used email. He always said, "Juliet, all this tech stuff is too complicated. I'd rather just pick up the phone." But there it was. I opened it. "You were incredible tonight, Dad. Heart." My stomach dropped. Dad? Who in the world was calling my husband Dad in that tone? I swiped down, heart hammering. Nothing else. Just a strange email address with random numbers and letters. I took a screenshot, then put the phone back exactly where I found it. I kept cleaning. In his pants pocket, I found a receipt from a fancy steakhouse in San Antonio. The same night he told me he was in Dallas for a meeting. Party of two. Expensive Cabernet Sauvignon, the same wine he bought me for our 10th anniversary. Filet mignon and pasta. I photographed it too. Then I went to the garage. His SUV was still warm. I opened the glove compartment with trembling fingers, and there it was. A half-used tube of personal lubricant, dried residue on the cap, clear as day. Julian and I hadn't been intimate in over 6 years. He always said he was too tired, that age does that to a man. So why was this in his car? I stood there in the dark garage, flashlight shaking in my hand, staring at that tube like it was a loaded gun pointed at my heart. I took photos. Then I put it back exactly as I found it. That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I called an old friend who gave me the number of a private investigator named Thomas. By noon, I was sitting across from him in a quiet downtown cafe, sliding a flash drive across the table. "I think my husband is cheating," I whispered. "I need to know the truth." Thomas nodded. "I'll start this afternoon, Mrs. Roberts. I'll be discreet." The next 48 hours felt like living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Thomas sent the first photos at 11:37 p.m. Julian and a woman entering a romantic restaurant holding hands. I zoomed in, and my world shattered. It was Allison, my own daughter-in-law. She wore a tight black dress, heavy makeup, red lipstick, hair down. They looked like lovers, not father-in-law and daughter-in-law. At every family gathering, they had acted cold toward each other. Now I realized it was all an act. More photos came. Them in a secluded corner, candles, flowers, Allison leaning in, Julian toasting her with that tender look I hadn't seen in decades. Then a video, Julian opening the car door for her like she was a queen. I replayed it until my eyes burned. That same night, Thomas sent a hotel video, 3rd floor balcony, Julian's arm around her waist, her head on her shoulder, a quick, passionate kiss. I saved everything, every photo, every second of video, every receipt. Then came the audio. Thomas had recorded them in the hotel parking lot using special equipment. Allison's voice, cold and greedy. Dad, hurry up with those fake contracts. I want the whole bakery chain. I want that old hag out of the house. Julian's reply, calm and confident. Don't worry. Juliet doesn't suspect a thing. She trusts me completely. Leave it to me. They weren't just sleeping together. They were planning to steal everything I had built. The bakeries, the house, my entire life, and kick me to the curb. I sat in my bakery at 3 a.m., surrounded by the smell of fresh bread, and felt something inside me turn to steel. The next few days I played the perfect clueless wife, while Thomas kept gathering evidence. I smiled, I cooked, I asked Julian about his business meetings. He lied smoothly every single time. Then came the night I decided it was time. I had already swapped the lubricant in the glove compartment with industrial superglue, the same heavy-duty kind I used to repair bakery equipment. Clear, fast-setting, impossible to separate without serious effort. I also set up a small controlled smoke trap in the kitchen, just enough oil and a remote string so I could trigger thick black smoke from across the street. The morning I left for Nashville, I kissed Julian on the forehead, told him I'd be home late, and walked out the door with my suitcase. Instead of going to the bus station, I went straight to my neighbor Mrs. Peterson's house. She let me sit by her front window with a cup of coffee. At 10:07 a.m., a taxi pulled up. Allison stepped out in a light floral dress and sunglasses. Julian opened the door quickly, looked both ways, and pulled her inside. I turned on the hidden recorder app connected to the device I had planted in my bedroom the night before. I waited. 15 minutes later, I heard Allison's laugh through my earbuds, then the bed creaking, then moans. I pulled the string on my phone. Thick, black smoke began pouring from the kitchen window. Mrs. Peterson gasped. Juliet, your house is on fire. Neighbors poured into the street. Someone screamed, Call 911. Within minutes, the fire truck roared down the block, lights flashing. My son Daniel, fire chief, jumped out first, face tight with worry.
Get the hoses ready. There might be people inside. I watched from Mrs. Peterson's window as Daniel and his team smashed through the front door. Through the headphones, I heard the chaos. Allison scream, What the hell? We're stuck. Julian, shut up. Wait, let me see. Daniel's voice cracking as he entered the bedroom. What is this? The entire neighborhood heard the firefighters' shocked reactions. Phones came out, videos started rolling. Daniel's team had to wrap Julian and Allison in sheets and carry them out on stretchers, still glued together at the most humiliating moment of their lives. The ambulance sirens wailed as they were rushed to the hospital. I waited 30 minutes, then walked over, pretending I had just rushed back from the bus station. Daniel stood in the yard, face pale as death. His teammates wouldn't even look him in the eye. I rode with Mrs. Peterson to the hospital. Hours later, the doctor came out. We separated them. No permanent damage, just some skin irritation. I thanked him, took the 2 tubes of ointment the nurse handed me, and quietly swapped them with 2 tubes of thick mustard I had prepared in my purse. I walked into the hospital room. Jillian looked up, eyes wide with shame. Juliet, I can explain. Allison wouldn't even meet my eyes. I placed the mustard tubes on the bedside table, smiled sadly, and walked out. 2 minutes later, the scream started. It burns! My skin is on fire! What the hell is this? The entire hallway filled with patients and nurses staring. Someone had already posted the stretcher video online. The comments were merciless. When the chaos died down, I walked back in with the divorce papers and the thick envelope of every photo, video, and audio recording. I looked Julian dead in the eyes. 40 years ends today. Sign these. Then disappear from my life and from our son's life. Allison started sobbing. Daniel, please, it was a mistake. Daniel stood in the doorway holding the folder I had asked him to bring. He didn't say a word. He just stared at the 2 people who had destroyed our family, then turned and walked away. Julian tried to grab my hand. Juliet, please. I pulled away. You made your choice. I left the hospital that day with my head high. The next few weeks were hard, but I refused to break. My bakeries became busier than ever. Customers came in just to hug me and say, Juliet, you are the strongest woman we know. Daniel moved back home. He didn't talk much at first, but every morning he helped me open the shop. He handled the invoices, talked to the hotels, carried the heavy flour sacks, things his father had never done. One quiet evening while we were eating simple chicken and rice, he looked at me and said, Mom, I'm proud of you. I don't know how you stayed strong through all of that. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. We're still here, son. That's what matters. I started taking walks with Mrs. Peterson. I joined a cooking club at the community center. I went back to church on Sundays and sat in the light of the stained glass windows, not praying for Julian or Allison, but praying for healing for Daniel and me. The bakery chain kept growing. I opened 2 new locations. Daniel started smiling again, small smiles at first, then real ones. He even asked me to teach him how to make my famous flan. Life slowly came back. Julian and Allison, they left town in disgrace. The videos spread everywhere. No one would hire them. Their reputations were ruined. I kept my home. I kept my business. I kept my dignity. And most importantly, I kept my son. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's simply refusing to let the people who tried to destroy you win. I'm still baking every morning. The smell of fresh bread and sweet flan fills the air. And for the first time in 40 years, I'm baking for myself and for the people who truly love me. If you're listening to this and you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with your whole heart, I want you to know you're not alone. Document everything. Stay calm. And when the moment comes, protect what's yours. You deserve peace. You deserve to rise. Thank you for listening to my story all the way to the end. Drop your city or country in the comments. I read every single one. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. On the screen right now, you'll see 2 more powerful stories I know you'll love. There's so much more on this channel. Until next time, stay strong, stay smart, and never let anyone dim your light. With love and respect, Juliet Roberts.